Hello, good morning. So I want to do something a little bit different this time, and I want to review a manga title. And this is the book I have just finished reading, Midnight Secretary, and it's by Tomu Ohmi. So yeah, this is about a young woman named. Let me see if I can pronounce it right if I read it off the book. Kaya Satsuka. That's that woman. And she works in this huge company, and finally she has worked her way up the rank to become the secretary of one of the board members. Now she's very proud about that, however the board member is kind of an ass, but still she prides herself on her work and wants to do her very best. Unfortunately for her, it turns out her boss, which is named, and again I need to read it off here to pronounce it right. uh, Ko, Kochi, I think it's Kochi, Toma, and that's that guy there. Anyway, she finds out that Kochi is a vampire, and we have a romance story from there. Now, let me say first off the bat, this is the Vampire Night and Twilight kind of vampire, and not the rip your face off and eat it kind of vampire. So if you're looking for a horror story, this isn't a horror story, it's a vampire romance. And yeah. Now, my review about this book hasn't anything to do with my feelings for vampire romance, not because I kind of like it. It says that it is basically from the start, so there's no subterfuge there. But so completely unrelated to the genre, I have to say that there are things in this book that I definitely do not like. First of all, something that annoys me in fiction generally, you have so many of those ugly duckling stories. Yeah, except that the duckling isn't really ugly. Uh, the Princess Diaries comes to mind, for example, where she isn't ugly at all. She just have a bit of an unfashionable hairstyle. And it would be very refreshing to see an ugly duckling story where the woman in question actually had beauty flaws. Scars, her being overweight, just plain being ugly or plain, instead of her being drop dead gorgeous, and everybody just saying that she's the ugly duckling until the point where they say she's beautiful. But yeah, Kochi, he constantly make the meaning remarks about, how was it pronounced then? Kainas, yes, apparent. And that, that, that isn't ugly. What he refers to as so ugly is that she wears her hair in a bun and she has glasses. Now, had this just been Mr. Douche with Hank's hair that said that, that would be fine because he has a kind of douchey character and that's completely okay. The problem is the entire world around you do the same, telling Gaina that she is so ugly because she wears glasses. And yeah, that sort of annoys me. I mean, it's a minor point, it doesn't really have anything to do with the story as such, but it just annoys me. I thought we were past that in the world. I would say that a woman is so ugly she can't be looked at because she wears glasses. I mean, seriously. Seriously. Anyway, on to a review of the plot. I didn't enjoy it a lot because there are three major problems here. One is that the characters are very poorly fleshed out. Now, I know this is the first volume of the manga, and this can get a lot better later on. But as it is, the only two characters that really get any real screen time are Koji and Kaina. And both of them are very generic and boring. The problem with Kana is that she is just your standard workaholic overachiever, and she has nothing else to her so far. And Kochi is your typical romance interest vampire. He's cocky, he's a bit of a douche, but at the same time extremely romantic and overwhelmingly handsome and so on and so forth. And he has this pushing people away personality. And yeah, the other problem is that the plot feels very shallow. Basically, there are some office intrigues in here, and that would have been interesting if they had been actually covered. It's more like, oh, we're going out to a meeting. This is the office politic excuse to do so. And the problem with this is that basically all the things they do is just an excuse for a romance. But when the characters are so poorly fleshed out, I don't really care if they end up together or not. The romance isn't that interesting. And so it would have been much better if the office politics had been actually fleshed out. Third problem is the romance. I don't really, at least at this point, feel any real connection between the characters. Sure, the plot forced them together, but I just don't feel it. It can be that I don't really have the great love of the asshole archetype. I mean, it's very popular, especially in manga and anime, with the completely rude, self-obsessed asshole douchebag love interest that really has a heart of gold inside, but it just don't appeal to me. So if somebody has some more into that, it might appeal more to them. It's not that I don't like the bad boy archetype. There's a difference between somebody who is a bit of on the dark side, say it like that, and somebody who constantly berates and insults others. Just isn't sexy to my sensibilities. So yeah, the book itself reads pretty easily. It's nothing wrong there. It's just that I feel that the plot and characters are sort of at this point half-assed. Now, I am going to give the book, basically, I'm going to give the series another chance. I'm going to pick up book 2. This is because there's so many good series out there that doesn't pick up before book 2 or book 3. And it's a shame to miss out on it. And this goes for TV series as well. For example, take Dollhouse. A great series, but it does drag a bit in the start. So a lot of people just gave up on the series at the start, and then it got cancelled later on when it started to get really good. And when I first bought the first book, it's not that huge of an investment to buy book 2 and see if it picks up from there. But unless I see some major improvements in book 2, I'm not so sure if I will be following the rest of the series. I should also mention one more thing that annoys me. Let me see if I can find an example of it here. Dum, dum, dum. 1 second, I should have marked pages where this shows. Oh, here we are. You see that little line here by the side? Yeah, that shows up with little tidbits from the author about how she was drawing the characters, what she was thinking, and to draw them inspiration and so on. And it's interesting bits of information. Please put it in the back of the book, because when you put it in the middle of the story, it sort of brings me out of it. Because when I get to that, and I'm thinking, oh, but this isn't continuing the story, and then I have to decide, am I going to read this now? I'm going to come back to it when I finish the book, and it just brings me out of it. It's much more better if those little extras are put in the back of the book, where I can read them at my leisure. Now this, again, is a minor nitpick. Now, as for the drawing style, I think it's pretty good. All the characters are very well drawn. They are very typically drawn for this kind of style. They're very pointy little chins and very big eyes, and they look very pretty. I mean, the boys looks like pretty women. Everybody looks like pretty women. It's almost everyone, and it really have a very similar look to it as Vampire Night, and I actually like that style. So yeah, but this is definitely a manga series intended for women. Now, not that there's anything wrong with if boys wants to read it, but this is pretty things and romance. That's all it is, at least so far. So yeah, as for the side characters, they haven't really shown up that many that's interesting yet. We have Kana's mother that shows up in one scene and doesn't get any development. We have Kochi's brother, who is this, at least at this point, is overly pretty, perfect, polite wonder boy. Though there are some hints that he might be a dark side there. And there's Kochi's father, who is the company president. And there's a few other minor side characters, but they get as little flashing out as the main characters. So yeah, I think this is a pretty. It's a mediocre. It's not bad, it's not horrible. I mean, I have no problem finishing it. It's mediocre. Now, if you are a parent who wonder if this is appropriate for your little girl, I would say yes. Some people say that this series is very risque. I'm not really getting it. Yes, there are sex scenes, but they are always in the distance. So, I mean, perhaps not for 7-year-olds, but if she's 10 or 11, she has already learned that boys and girls do it. So, yeah, we don't see a lot of things up close. And there's not a lot of blood in this because Kochi never kills anyone, at least not in this point, at this point in the series. He only drinks a cup or so of blood. So, yeah. For vampire romance, I would recommend Vampire over this every day, but it could get better as the series progresses. I have talked with someone who has read the entire series, and she says it gets a lot better further on. Let's hope she's right. And that's my review of Midnight Secretary by Tomu Ohmi. And this is published by Viz Media. I hope you have a great day, and blessed be.